Hello, Filipinos. David Spears here again with you. I'm interviewing Jeff DeMasi of Punk Ave, also known as the Godfather of Creative Collaboration in Philadelphia for various reasons. He is a partner, one of the partners and founding members of Independence Hall in 2007. He owns and operates as one of the principals in a design firm in South Philly, about a block from Hats and Ginos, called Punk Ave. He's also an assistant professor at the University of Arts. But he's also probably better known, well, maybe not better known, but he's also known for his community initiatives, such as Junto, which is I'll let Jeff explain what Junto is exactly. Vox Populi, Passyunk Square Civic Association. Did I pronounce that like a South Phillyite? Passyunk. And Ignite Philly, which is coming up soon. But I'll let Jeff go from there. But Jeff, could you just explain to us real quick what Vox Populi, Junto, Ignite Philly, what all these community initiatives, like creative communities that you've been a part of, why you're part of them, why you think they're necessary for Philadelphia?
Sure. I enjoy being part of collectives or collaborative groups. I think I'm more inspired. I like contributing to the group, and I like what the group gives back to me in terms of inspiration and support and all those kinds of things that well-running, well-intentioned groups can do. So I'm sort of the kind of person that is more attracted to like a team sport versus an individual sport, and I think that translates itself. As an artist, I've always been interested in collaborating on projects, creating projects that invite people into a discussion, sort of create a system or create a communication opportunity. And I think that naturally, when in the work I do, as part of Punk Ave, that always sort of has been a big part of what we do. But also, we've always been inspired to want to connect up with other people. So starting, for instance, the Junto and hosting it here was just one of those desires to meet more people doing interesting things and to get those people together and to hope that ideas and sparks and things would fly and just cooler things would happen, and it would just make a more interesting place for all of us to live in.
That's awesome. Yeah. So why is that? Like, we're Philippinors and we're always talking about entrepreneurship and startups and from the more of the business angle. Why are these collaborative communities so important for startups and entrepreneurs?
Well, I think that collaborative communities help to produce and support ideas to be executed, and a lot of times there's a lot of ideas floating around there, but I think when you put a structure around it, like a group like the Junto that meets on a regular basis, or you have like a cooperative art gallery like Vox Populi, something I was part of several years back, it has a structure, it keeps things going, and it sort of provides the infrastructure for things to happen. And I think with entrepreneurial people, businesses, I think they have a lot to learn from that, and a lot of them already do know that. But if as an entrepreneur you're not connected into sort of sharing and collaboration and groups like that, I think you would gain a lot by that.
Yeah, it kind of breaks down the isolation, breaks down the walls between creative minds.
Yeah, and it provides input from peers. It provides a new perspective on things. I mean, one of the whole points of Ignite Philly, which is, as you mentioned, coming up June 11th, is that the idea of just being in a room with a group of people that are doing interesting things, and maybe it's not in your field, like we're having the Food Trust talk about a project they did in North Philly, where they they changed the convenience store into a place that sold locally grown produce. So and it really transformed the store and the neighborhood and this. And maybe that's not your business, but I find that inspiring, and I find that interesting to a lot of people. I mean, interestingly enough, I think in the New York Times today or yesterday there was an article about how a lot of investors are investing in farms and food production because they see that as like a huge growth area because prices are going up. But I mean, I wasn't thinking about that. But I mean, I do think when I invited Food Trust, but I do think that I intuitively know that there's business opportunities around those issues. But I'm also just interested in the idea of the humanity of it and the spirit of it.
And it's just the creativeness of it, like Andy Warhol's quote where he talks about the greatest art is that of creating and running a business for him. And it's like running a business and creating business isn't much different than creating art, is it?
Well, I find that my experience as an artist has definitely been something that I've carried into the way I run a business. So I certainly see it as that. And then I think that forming a civic association in the neighborhood, I saw that as an artistic act. I found artists later describing it as like interventionist art, and I think that that's the kind of thing that I find, with something like that. It's a piece of it, but I also think the art of running a business or being part of a group or a collaboration is definitely something that you can handle in an artful way.
That's great. Yeah, that's brilliant. I guess my last question for you, and I'll let you go because I know you've got all this stuff going on, so you must not have much free time these days. But by the way, I'm going to be at Ignite Philly. I can't wait. I'm really hoping I'm going to get a couple interviews in there too. I guess my question for you is, what motivates you as an entrepreneur? As someone who has to, obviously you're creative and that's a motivation, but at the same time, there's a business side to entrepreneurship. It's not just about creation, or else it would be just simply that, like a more traditional art form. What inspires you as a startup, as an entrepreneur, as a business person? Besides money.
Why run a business? Is that the question? Or?
Yeah.
I do think it's a lot about having control over your life and choice, and the way you live your life and the way you can impact the earth and the community. I think when you're running your own business and you get to set the way and sort of help steer the way in which it runs, you are, I see it as a way of setting an example for other people on how to run a business in some ways. I also see it as an opportunity to make decisions that so I can use the resources of the business to have an impact on the world. Even using to some degree the resources of Punk Avenue to help organize Ignite Philly. I feel like that's something that's going to help Philadelphia, help the community. It's interesting to me, obviously, but if I was working in another role where my time was completely filled up with stuff that I had to do related to something else, I might not be able to fit it in. So it's the idea of having the resources and having the control over those resources to do the things that I think make sense to be done. I think that's a big piece of it for me, and I like the creative, as we mentioned, aspects of running a business, and I like problem solving. So all that kind of stuff, just seems to make sense to me.
Yeah, and that's been pretty consistent with a lot of entrepreneurs that I've talked to, and one of the questions I typically ask every entrepreneur that I've, or Phillypreneur, as I like to call them, interview on this, is what's your inspiration as an entrepreneur? But I think you've already answered that question for me, in that with this Ignite Philly and Junto, and it's the other entrepreneurs, it's the other creative people, it's the other inventors and innovators in Philadelphia that inspire you. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think I'm inspired by a problem in many ways, and I'm also inspired by, what could happen from when people come together and do greater things than they can do as an individual. And like you said, we've talked about it a little bit. I'm inspired by the power of the group, and I'm inspired by, the desire to solve problems out there. So I love seeing when people do that. Like with ISEPTA, as I think you've talked about it on your site. I love the fact that people came together to solve a problem and were inspired to do that. And I think that's I mentioned that to Randy and Chris, that I was inspired by what they did. That's this kind of stuff that gets me excited. Awesome,
man. Well, hey, thank you for giving us your time. Looking forward to Ignite Philly. It's going to be a great event. Hope everyone can come out to that. I'm sure. I hear it's going to be packed. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm getting the sense that we might actually reach capacity. So just to come and get there early. The doors open at 6. I would really seriously try to get there at 6.
Well, save me a seat, but I'll be there. I'm just down the street anyway. So, all right, Jeff. Thanks again, and we'll be giving you some link love.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right, Jeff. Talk to you soon, man.
Take care.